Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are jumping into, well, a really fascinating stack of sources, and they set up this profound and I think necessary contradiction.
They really do.
On one side, you have just dramatic, world-shaking chaos.
Visions of conflict, yeah.
Visions of conflict, destruction, empires rising and falling. But then on the other, you find these declarations of eternal, unshakable constancy.
And that's our mission today, isn't it? To navigate that exact tension.
It is.
We want to try and extract the bedrock principles that allow you to move through every season of your life.
Right.
Whether it's, a minor daily frustration or some massive global upheaval, to move through it with a kind of unwavering confidence.
And we're using some incredible ancient texts as our anchors here.
We are. We have the intensely symbolic visions of Daniel, some very practical lessons from the Gospel of Luke, and then these powerful statements of stability from the Psalms.
Okay, let's establish that anchor immediately, I think. I think if we're going to look into the storm, we need to stand on solid ground first.
Good idea.
So we start with that core premise of permanence from Psalm 33.
Right.
The text says, "The counsel of the Lord stands forever, the plans of his heart through all generations." I mean, that is a staggering statement.
It is.
Why is that so crucial? Defining an eternal constant before we even touch the chaos.
Well, it's the context, isn't it?
All right,
it's
yeah.
what makes the difference between anxiety and hope.
How so?
If you believe everything is just temporary and random, then every setback, every chaotic news cycle, it's paralyzing.
It feels final.
Exactly. But if you start with the premise that there is an overarching, generational, unmoving counsel at play,
Yeah.
your perspective just instantly shifts.
And what's interesting is how the reflection notes connect that huge idea directly to this practical task of reading the seasons.
Yes, that's the key.
How does that connection work?
It suggests that grounding yourself in this unchanging word is really the only way to face change with any kind of steady confidence. It allows you to see divine movement even in periods of, stagnation or what the notes call slow or hidden growth.
So if the ultimate plan is eternal,
Then your temporary struggle, that period where you feel like nothing is moving forward, it doesn't derail the outcome.
it just means you're in a different season.
You're in the winter waiting for the spring. That's a great way to put it.
And this idea of permanence, it's not just a comfort from the Psalms. It gets reinforced with this dramatic finality in the Gospel of Luke,
Oh, absolutely.
where the text puts the divine word above the entire physical cosmos. It says, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away."
When the very framework of reality is called temporary, but the spoken word is eternal, that's where true stability has to lie.
That's the anchor.
That is absolutely the anchor.
Yes.
And we need it because now we are going to dive into pure distilled chaos.
Right.
If Psalm 33 describes the unchanging foundation, Daniel chapter 7 describes the ultimate expression of temporary human power and conflict.
Let's get into Daniel's vision. It immediately sets a tone of global conflict.
It does.
It begins with the four winds of heaven stirring up the great sea, which, as you know, has pretty much always been interpreted as the churning, unpredictable mass of human nations and strife.
The sea of humanity. And from that sea,
Emerge four immense beasts, each one representing a kind of a stage of destructive temporal power. And this is where the language gets truly arresting.
and we have to remember, these beasts aren't just like a history lesson. They're archetypes of these destructive power structures that rise and fall.
That's a great point. You could apply this to major global powers or even huge corporations today.
For sure. They're fleeting, but while they exist, they are absolutely terrifying.
So let's look at the first one. It's described like a lion.
The king of beasts, raw power.
Exactly, unchallenged military power. But it also has eagle's wings, suggesting incredible speed and reach.
But the key moment is the transformation.
Right. Daniel watches as those wings are plucked, and the beast is raised up to stand on 2 feet like a man. And then it's given a human mind.
And that's a critical insight. Raw, savage power is transformed into something intelligent, organized. Yes,
Okay.
capable of human political calculation. It's not just a predatory animal anymore. It's now a structured thinking system, which you could argue makes it far more dangerous in the long run.
Even if its immediate speed is gone.
Right. It's power learning how to govern itself, but it's still fundamentally a beast.
Then the second beast emerges, and it's completely different. It's a bear, raised up on one side, which implies this asymmetry and imbalance of focus or resources and just sheer brute dominance.
And that specific detail, the 3 tusks in its mouth, suggests a hungry, focused agenda. It even gets a command.
A blunt, chilling command. Up, devour much flesh. Its whole purpose is just consumption.
It's an era defined by simple, material greed and overwhelming force, all about acquisition and dominance.
And you contrast that simplicity with the third beast, the leopard.
So different.
A leopard already suggests speed and cunning, but Daniel's vision just compounds this. It has 4 wings, like a bird's, making it unbelievably swift, and 4 heads.
Multiplicity.
That's the word. 4 heads and 4 wings. It is complex, agile, dominant, and it's operating on multiple fronts at the same time. And to this creature, dominion was given.
That is a perfect metaphor for systems that are inherently decentralized, quick-moving, and strategically complex. The kind of dominant power that manages to be everywhere at once because of its structure.
But then comes the final vision, the 4th beast.
And this one is the most terrifying.
This one is just defined by terror. It wasn't even compared to an existing animal.
No.
It's just described as horrifying, terrifying, and of extraordinary strength. It has great iron teeth for devouring and crushing. It doesn't just conquer, it annihilates and tramples whatever is left.
It's the ultimate expression of destructive, unrelenting force. It destroys every previous structure.
Right.
But the drama within this 4th system is what really sets up the climax.
Right. The 10 horns, representing a certain scope of authority, are immediately challenged by a new player, the little horn, and 3 of the existing horns are torn away to make room for it.
And this little horn is notable. It has eyes like a man,
indicating intelligence and cunning.
But its defining characteristic is that it spoke arrogantly. Its power concentrated in pure ego and self-proclaimed supremacy.
And that arrogance is the pivot point.
It is. The ultimate expression of temporary, destructive human power based on pride is what triggers the intervention of the eternal.
The very next scene is the divine court convening.
A total shift.
We shift from the chaotic great sea to this courtroom of eternal stability. Thrones are set up, and the Ancient One, the eternal authority, takes his place.
And the imagery here is spectacular, demonstrating a kind of dynamic, irresistible power.
It really is.
The visual details are so important because they contrast so sharply with those earthly beasts. The Ancient One's clothing is snow bright, the hair is white as wool.
Purity and antiquity.
Exactly. But the throne itself is this terrifying, moving presence. It's made of flames of fire with wheels of burning fire.
And a surging stream of fire flow out from where he sat.
This is not some static, passive judge. This is active, consuming, dynamic judgment.
It's a power that doesn't just judge, it consumes what's temporary.
Right. The court convenes, the books are opened, and the verdict is absolute.
The beast is slain and its body burned up, and it's specifically because of the arrogant words spoken by that little horn.
Arrogance. The ultimate denial of eternal constancy is what seals its fate. But, and this is a crucial distinction, notice what happens with the other 3 beasts.
They lost their dominion. Their era was definitively over.
But they were granted a prolongation of life for a time and a season.
Which is a massive takeaway for our daily lives.
It really is.
It means that the destructive forces we face, the chaos, the political systems, the greed, even when they're ultimately vanquished and their power to dominate is removed, they often don't just disappear immediately.
They linger.
They linger on the scene for a time. So we live in that tension between an established eternal victory and the prolonged, fading presence of the temporary chaos.
Which is precisely why the vision immediately pivots to the ultimate transfer of power that resolves this tension.
Daniel sees one like a son of man coming on the clouds of heaven, who is presented before the Ancient One, and this figure receives the dominion.
This is the definitive answer to the temporary nature of the beasts.
He receives dominion, glory, and kingship. And the text explicitly defines the duration of his rule.
Yes, it's an everlasting dominion that shall not be taken away, and his kingship shall not be destroyed.
It is the ultimate, non-negotiable endpoint of all that chaos.
So we've covered the cosmic vision, the eternal stability of the plan, the chaos of the beasts, and the everlasting dominion being established. But how does that massive promise translate into a usable, practical, daily tool for you, the listener?
That requires a very sharp transition.
It does.
And that's where we move from the terrifying beasts of Daniel to the deceptively simple instruction given by Jesus, the parable of the fig tree in Luke 21.
This is how the divine connects that sweeping historical narrative to your personal, immediate reality. It provides a simple, accessible metric for staying attentive.
He tells his listeners and us to observe nature,
Just look at the fig tree.
Yeah, think about it. When you see it and all the other trees burst their buds, it's not some cataclysmic event. It's a subtle, natural, undeniable sign of change.
And it signals that summer is near.
And the analogy is direct.
It is. Just as that subtle, slow, hidden growth of the budding tree signals the proximity of the harvest, seeing these things happening signals that the kingdom of God is near.
So it's not about waiting for a loud gong or a terrifying beast to appear.
Not at all. It's about recognizing the quiet, constant movements of the eternal in your midst.
This is the invitation to attentiveness. It means staying perceptive to God's hand moving in your own life and in the world. Even in those moments that feel mundane or where you feel discouraged by the slow or hidden growth of your efforts.
When you see a small kindness or a principle of justice prevail or a personal breakthrough.
You are seeing the budding of the eternal kingdom, just like the fig tree.
And that connects back perfectly to that psalm we started with. Because the plan stands forever, we are permitted to look for the tiny signs of its progress right now, instead of just waiting in fear for the dramatic pronouncements of the next temporary beast.
So if the dominion is established and everlasting, what should be the universal response?
The sources move to this massive communal song of praise. It's found in Daniel 3, sometimes called the responsorial psalm for these readings.
And it gives a sweeping, comprehensive call to universal blessing. It's an insistence that every single corner of creation has to participate in praising this established, everlasting authority.
It's not just human beings acknowledging the dominion. It's every element that the chaotic beasts previously tried to dominate or crush or control.
The scope is incredible. Look at the expansive list of creation called to bless the Lord, praise and exalt him above all forever. It starts with the grand geographical elements.
Mountains and hills.
Everything growing from the earth, springs, seas, and rivers.
And then it gets into the wildlife, including creatures that often symbolize the untamable parts of the world.
Right. Dolphins and all water creatures, all birds of the air, and finally, all beasts, wild and tame.
It's affirming that the everlasting dominion holds sway not just over political structures, but over the physical, the biological, the wild forces of nature itself. Nothing is outside the boundary of this established rule.
This is the ultimate counterpicture to Daniel's beasts emerging from that chaotic sea.
The sea is no longer a source of chaos, but a source of praise.
Which leads to the final encouraging instruction found in the accompanying passage from Luke.
A very active posture.
Stand erect and raise your heads because your redemption is at hand. You're not instructed to cower beneath the threat of the lingering chaos,
but to look up, grounded in the certainty of everlasting dominion.
So we've taken the deep dive into that core tension, the dramatic, terrifying chaos of the four beasts and the instability of the seasons,
contrasted with the absolute permanence of the divine word and the everlasting dominion established.
We saw the sheer scale of the disruption Daniel witnessed, found our comfort in the psalmist's declaration that God's counsel stands forever.
And then received that immensely practical guide from Luke. Look for the budding fig tree. Stay attentive to the slow growth.
The central message for you, the listener, is that these texts provide both that massive overview of world history, the rise and fall of great destructive powers, and the immediate practical instruction for how to maintain your faith and find peace during any period of upheaval.
You're given the compass, regardless of the storm's magnitude.
Which brings us back to that lingering question raised by Daniel's vision. The three previous forces of chaos, the lion, the bear, the leopard, had their ultimate dominion removed, yet they were granted a prolongation of life for a time and a season.
They were allowed to stick around for a while.
So the final question we're left with is this. If the old, defeated forces of chaos are still lingering, still making noise, still distracting, how do we stay attentive to the quiet, enduring signs of the eternal kingdom without getting distracted or demoralized by the temporary extension granted to the chaos of the past?
That constant balance between the temporary noise and the eternal truth.
Well,
that's the work of every day.
it is.
Indeed. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.